The first red flag was the way Gary from finance called me Vivi. No one under 40 has ever called me Vivi unless they were about to stab me metaphorically, or literally, depending on the budget cycle. I was halfway through my coffee, the cheap Keurig kind that tastes like burned hope, when I caught his reflection in the microwave glass, standing behind me with that Silicon Valley smile. Polished teeth, dead eyes. I knew something was off when the second floor copier jammed and didn't scream. That thing's shriek was the office banshee. Its silence felt like a held breath before a slap. And there it was again, that electric hum in the air like someone was about to drop a glass at a wedding. Carderex Systems had a smell that morning. Not literal, though if you've ever stood near the CTO's vegan lunch, you'd argue, but metaphorical. It reeked of sterilized intent. People were being too polite. No snarky jabs about the SEC regulations memo I'd emailed. No over-explaining their calendar blocks like usual. Just silent glances and forced smiles. I might as well have been a ghost doing a compliance haunting. You want to know what really did it? The goddamn posted on my monitor. Smile, it's Q4, with a little doodled smiley face. Nobody leaves me chirpy office graffiti unless they're preloading a eulogy. I looked up, and for the first time in a decade, my name wasn't on the internal compliance brief. That's when the dread set in, not dramatic, just this slow, seeping cold behind the eyes, like the company was already planning around my corpse. Hey, quick thing. If you're still listening and haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's your moment. I get it, 97% of people don't, but every click gives our little revenge-fueled crew the morale boost of 1,000 HR nightmares. Help the team keep dropping truth bombs like this one. All right, back to the bloodletting. I walked past Theo Vale's glass office and caught a glimpse, him, huddled with two board members, the kind that wear Rolexes like brass knuckles. They stopped talking the second they saw me and shuffled papers. Classic bad poker faces. I could read their lips from years of deciphering corporate BS. Today, before lunch, she won't fight. They thought I wouldn't fight. On the elevator ride up to the 27th floor, the legal and investor relations zone, I caught whispers. Two younger analysts, fresh out of Wharton or wherever they manufacture LinkedIn influencers now. She doesn't even know yet, nah. Theo says it'll be clean. Clean, like I'm a countertop being wiped. Doors opened and I stepped out, pretending I'd dropped something so they wouldn't see the look on my face. I glanced down the hallway, a printer word. Legal assistants stacked manila folders, thick ones, labeled with Sharpie. One said, leadership transition documents. Another, statement draft. If you think I panicked, you don't know me. I'd spent 16 years in this building and 22 in corporate law before that. My panic response retired in 2008. What I felt was worse, resignation. The kind that sits deep in your bones and waits, but something else itched at the edge of my brain. They didn't know. They thought they were catching me off guard. They thought I was the weak link, the compliant little ethics officer too old to notice the knife twisting in her spine. They were wrong. I made my way back to my office calmly, heels clicking like a war drum. I passed the intern who once accidentally added himself to a C-level email thread. He couldn't meet my eye, that confirmed it. The building was in on it. The rats smelled the tide coming in and I wasn't invited to the Ark, so I sat. I drank my lukewarm coffee, and I opened my inbox where a new meeting invite sat. 11 o'clock a.m. Conference room B, no agenda, no subject line. Just the kind of ominous calendar block you don't need to click to understand. I accepted it. Then I opened my bottom drawer and took out the manila folder I'd prepared 3 weeks ago. Not labeled, just sealed, just waiting. You don't spend your life inside a corporate cathedral without knowing where the rot lives. They'd built Carderex on inflated projections, smoke and mirror acquisitions, and client contracts that didn't exist past the PDF mockups. I kept quiet because I thought I was protecting the company. Turns out, I was just protecting men like Theo Vale. Well, not anymore. At exactly 10:57 a.m., the office's Wi-Fi flickered like it always did when someone was streaming CNBC in a conference room down the hall, probably hoping to catch a live mention of Carderex's imaginary product expansion into Asia. I tucked the sealed manila folder into my purse, next to a granola bar and the burner phone, and walked like I'd been summoned by the Pope, not a pack of over-adventure clowns with god complexes and too much gel in their hair. Conference room B had been scrubbed clean for the occasion. Literally, someone had swapped out the usual crusty whiteboard markers for fresh ones and dimmed the fluorescent overheads just enough to make it feel like an execution chamber. Theo Vale was already seated at the head, legs crossed like he was auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. The man had all the warmth of a microwave burrito and half the flavor. Vivian, he said, standing up like I was a client, not a colleague he was about to professionally mug. Thanks for coming in on short notice. I didn't shake his hand. Just sat down across from him, smoothing out my blazer sleeve as if it might deflect bullets. We've been talking about a shift, he began, while two other board members, Debbie from Strategic Ops and Marcus I read HBR on the toilet NG, looked everywhere but at me. A recalibration of leadership tone. A chance to refocus on agility. There it was, refocus, the corporate Heimlich. You're choking, but they call it a cleanse. I see, I said, because I'd practiced that phrase for years. It's the safest one. It lets them think they're still in control. We believe it's time for a new chapter, Theo went on, the corner of his mouth twitching up into that shit-eating grin he reserves for quarterly calls and firings. There's no question about the impact you've had. 16 years of stellar work. He handed me the papers like he was passing communion. Severance agreement, NDA, exit communication strategy. They'd even pre-written the email I was supposed to send to the company. Vivian has chosen to step away like hell I had. No tears, no speeches. I flipped through the papers like I was skimming a brunch menu. Is legal available? I asked. They've reviewed it on your behalf, Theo replied, real smooth, real fast, which meant the paperwork had been cooking for days, maybe longer. I signed, not out of agreement, not out of fear, just efficiency. Like deleting an app you never use. You can take the afternoon, Theo said, or the rest of the week if you like. Generous, I murmured. Then I stood up, adjusted my purse strap, smiled just once, tight-lipped and clinical. I'll let myself out. No one stopped me. No one clapped, no one sniffled. Marcus typed something on his iPad. Debbie took a call before I hit the door. Back in the hallway, I heard the soft ding of someone opening Slack, probably drafting the company-wide announcement. I walked past my office. I didn't go in, didn't grab the framed photo of my dog, didn't collect the cactus on the windowsill or the gum stash in my drawer, didn't power down my laptop. Hell, I didn't even look back because I didn't need to. Everything that mattered had already been uploaded, timestamped, encrypted, and sent offsite 3 weeks ago. Every lie, every doctored contract, every Slack thread where a VP joked about cooking the quarter like it's Thanksgiving. All of it, the manila folder in my purse, that wasn't sentimental. That was loaded. I rode the elevator down in silence, staring at the little glowing numbers like they might blink out mid-descent and give me an excuse to scream. But I didn't. I watched the floors tick by, 26:14 lobby, and I felt nothing. Not yet. Outside, the wind slapped me across the face like a baptism. Cold, bitter, and righteous. I walked 3 blocks to the cafe I used to hide in during fire drills and sat under the rusted patio heater like I was just another Tuesday customer, not the woman who just got publicly executed by a pack of PowerPoint pirates. I pulled out my phone. 5 emails already. Subject, so sorry to hear, coffee soon? Subject, reorg surprises, hope you're okay. Subject, quick question about Q3 filings, of course. Because even when you're dead, they want one more favor. I ignored them all. Instead, I opened one app. Just one? Secure line, status, pending trigger. It would activate in 18 hours, just long enough for the vultures to circle. Just long enough for Theo to sleep peacefully one last time. 3 weeks earlier, I was in my office on a Thursday night, eating a cold tuna wrap with one hand and dragging formulas across a Q3 earnings spreadsheet with the other, when a red cell flickered like a blinking lie. It was one of those little Excel inconsistencies, the kind finance shrugs off with it rounded weird or different versions got merged. But something about this one? It was off, like a dog bark in a silent house. Row 347, client code Crester Analytics. Contract value $2.3 million. Status pending installments, which was fascinating, because I knew for a fact Crester had ghosted us last June. The last time I'd spoken to their COO, he was canceling our renewal and citing deliberate overpromising in his email. His exact words, "You guys sell vaporware with a smile." Now here they were, apparently giving us 7 figures for a product we never shipped. I clicked open the linked contract PDF, dated and signed digitally. But the signature ID? Fake. A dummy template we'd used in a marketing demo 2 years back. Whoever added this to revenue hadn't even changed the metadata. Like they thought nobody would check or that nobody would care. That was the moment, not the moment I got angry. That came later. This was the moment I stopped being naive. I didn't raise it in Monday's meeting. Didn't fire off a concerned email. I knew better. I'd seen too many polite purges in my career. People who voiced concerns and were never heard from again. Hell, Carterex had a hallway nickname for them, the ghosts. I wasn't going to be a ghost, so I started collecting. Screenshots, metadata exports, chat transcripts. I combed through internal folders with more caution than a bomb squad, labeling files like a librarian preparing for trial. The fake Crester contract was just the top of the sewage pipe. Below it, at least 6 more clients who didn't exist or hadn't paid a dime in years, all marked as active contributors to quarterly revenue. The kicker? One of them, Medicore Solutions, had filed for bankruptcy in 2019. We were still booking them at $1.1 million annually, and nobody blinked, so I stopped blinking too. I started coming in earlier, leaving later, saving everything to a thumb drive shaped like a Starbucks cup. Theo's going away gift to someone he'd axed in March. Funny how irony makes the best evidence containers. Each night, I uploaded the encrypted files to a private cloud server my nephew had set up. Kid's only 17, but he talks like he's auditioning for the NSA. On the second Thursday of my crusade, I booked an appointment under my maiden name at a law office 3 towns over. No paralegals, no interns, no paper trail. Just me and an attorney who used to work for the Securities and Exchange Commission and now made a modest killing helping women like me weaponize the truth. I want to report corporate fraud, I said flatly, sliding the drive across his desk. But I don't want to be a martyr. He nodded like he'd heard it 100 times before. Probably had. We walked through the whistleblower process like surgeons mapping veins. Every clause, every risk. He explained the sex retaliation protections. I explained that I'd already been retaliated against, just not formally. The eye rolls in meetings, the lost calendar invites, the strategic miscommunications that left me off planning calls. Death by 1,000 slights. Do you want to remain anonymous? He asked. Yes, I said, until I don't. He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't need to. I gave him the folder, thicker than a Vanity Fair lawsuit issue, pointed to one page in particular. A screenshot of Theo's Slack message to another exec. Just pad Q3 a little. Use the friendly accounts. Vive won't raise hell, she's loyal. I'd stared at that line for 3 days. She's loyal, like I was a dog or a brand mascot. Loyal until dead. Loyal until discarded. When I finally spoke again, it was with the calm you reserve for planned demolition. Trigger it only after I'm gone, I said. The lawyer didn't flinch. He just clicked save and set the timer. Understood. We didn't shake hands, just nodded. I walked out of that building under a sky so overcast it felt cinematic, like the world was preparing the lighting for something biblical. And in my pocket, my burner phone buzzed. A message from the secure server. Upload complete. Encryption verified. The fuse was lit. Now I just had to wait for the match. The Slack announcement dropped at 2:16 p.m., just as I was stirring honey into a cup of chamomile at the cafe around the corner from Carterex. I hadn't opened the company's Slack in hours, but my burner buzzed with a notification tied to a read-only observer account I'd set up months ago, one of the little tricks I'd learned from watching Risk Ops implode during the 2020 VPN scandal. The message was pinned by Theo Vale, board chair, and opened with a sunshine enema. After 16 incredible years, Vivian Holt has chosen to step away from her role as Chief Compliance Officer. We thank her for her tireless commitment to ethical leadership, her sharp insights, and her unwavering grace under pressure. While change is never easy, this transition reflects our evolving vision as Carterex enters its next growth phase. Please join us in wishing Vivian all the best in her future adventures. I almost choked on the tea. Chosen to step away. That's like saying a guy chose to exit after being shoved off a cruise ship. The reactions came in fast because tech bros are nothing if not performatively performative. Little balloons floated next to the announcement. One guy added a goat emoji, like I was the greatest of all time and not the sacrificial one. Someone else replied with end of an era pleading face like I'd died tragically in a kayaking accident. Then came the emails. Subject, gonna miss you Vive. Body, can't believe it, wish we'd gotten that drink we always talked about lol subject. Thank you, Body. You were one of the only ones who actually read the risk reports. True loss for the team. Subject, WTF. Body, are you okay? They said it was your call? And finally, the one that made me snort into my sleeve. Subject, good luck, Body, hope you get some rest. Who earned it grinning face with sweat signed by a 26-year-old marketing intern who once asked if compliance meant we handled parking validations. I didn't reply to any of them. I watched the Slack scroll like a ghost at her own funeral. Everyone said nice things, too nice. That's how you know it's all PR embalming fluid. The overuse of grace, the word bittersweet, the fake reverence for someone they'd been plotting to cut since the June board reshuffle. But the part that made my spine go ice cold was this little gem from Theo himself, tucked at the bottom of the thread. Vivian was instrumental in helping Carterex grow without compromising our values. We'll always be grateful, compromising our values. I stared at those words so hard my vision blurred. Let me make this crystal. It was personal. Every stifled meeting. Every time they looped me in after a decision was made. Every fake smile in a hallway lined with backstabbers and all birds. Theo and his caviar for breakfast brigade thought they could gaslight me into graceful compliance, wrap it in a silk bow, and send me into obscurity. And they almost got away with it, but they forgot something small, something human. I'm petty and I'm patient. I had no plans to scream, no dramatic LinkedIn post, no late-night rant to the press, but I did have one email to send. Subject, watch the news tomorrow. To Morgan D. at Carterexfin Morgan Daniels, junior financial analyst. Smart, cautious, still believed in audits and accountability. A year ago, he flagged an unexplainable variance in an internal document, the same one I later found again during my deep dive. I told him not to pursue it, told him it wasn't the hill to die on. But now it was. I didn't add a body to the message, didn't need to. The subject line was the whole sermon. Then I hit send, closed the laptop, and deleted the Slack app from my burner. Outside the cafe window, the city moved like nothing had happened. People on scooters, dogs sniffing trash, a couple arguing about whether they'd already seen that episode of Succession. Meanwhile, inside the belly of Carterex, Theo and his little tribunal were passing around champagne flutes, celebrating my departure like I hadn't just left them a legal time bomb ticking beneath the server room. Bitterness curdled behind my teeth, but I swallowed it. No more speeches, no more reports, no more trying to fix the unfixable. They'd boxed me out, but I'd set the match. At exactly 9:31 a.m., the banner slid across the bottom of the CNBC stream like a guillotine blade. Breaking, Carterex systems under SEC investigation for fraudulent reporting practices. The words moved left to right on my iPad screen, all caps, all red like the markets themselves had started bleeding. I didn't flinch, didn't gasp, just took a slow sip of my coffee, black and bitter. No cream, no sweetness, because some mornings you want to feel the bite. I was sitting under a trellis at Le Jardin Café, one of those downtown spots that tried too hard to look Parisian. The kind with chipped chairs, overpriced croissants, and exactly zero hedge fund analysts in sight. That's why I liked it. The ticker rolled again. Carterex shares halted. Preliminary drop, 14% in first 4 minutes of trading. I tapped the volume icon and kept the feed muted. I didn't need to hear Theo's voice. I already knew the cadence, smooth like overcooked oatmeal and twice as empty. He'd be in the tower conference room right now, tie slightly loosened, reading from a statement legal wrote in a panic at 6 a.m., something with the words deeply regret and cooperation and isolated discrepancies. On screen, the anchor leaned forward like a vulture about to peck a corpse. We're learning this investigation may stem from a confidential whistleblower complaint filed last month. Sources say the SEC's interest is particularly focused on Q3 and Q4 revenue documentation, as well as suspicious contract structures involving offshore clients. They cut to a B-roll of Carterex's downtown office building, an over-designed monument to bad taste. Even the revolving doors look smug. I watched a bee land in my tea saucer. It circled the rim and lifted off again, disinterested. My phone buzzed. Unknown caller DC. Area code I let it go. Another buzz. No caller ID 917 area ignore. The messages started trickling in. Re, are you watching this? Re, did you, was this you? Re, Jesus Christ, Vive, they're tanking. I flipped the burner over on the table like a paperweight. I'd turned off read receipts days ago. Let them guess. Let them panic. Across from me, an elderly couple shared a muffin, splitting it down the middle like the world wasn't currently rearranging its face. That's what struck me oddly. How normal everything was. A dog barked. A car honked. The waitress refilled someone's espresso and asked about the weather. And meanwhile, in the upper floors of Carterex, people were sweating through their wool blends and calling their brokers with voices 2 octaves higher than normal. Another headline rolled by. CNBC exclusive, DOJ now involved possible criminal referral. I smiled, not with glee, not even satisfaction. It was colder than that, emptier. Like when a cavity stops hurting and you just know the nerve is dead. This wasn't triumph. This was conclusion. I remembered a phrase my grandmother once said when she poured boiling water on an anthill outside her porch. Sometimes justice is ugly. The iPad buzzed again. A Twitter alert this time. At Insider Whispers, leak subpoena shows SEC interest in Carterex board communications, Q3 audits, and whistleblower complaint corroborated by third-party documentation. Developing. Morgan had gotten the message. The match had touched the fuse. They still didn't know it was me, not officially. But the smart ones, especially legal, would already be whispering it in hallways. Vivian had access. She always had backups. Didn't she flag Q3 last year? It circled the idea like dogs sniffing an old injury. Let them circle. I swiped the news stream away and opened my notes app. There, a single sentence I'd written the night before. Remember this feeling, this silence. This is what freedom tastes like. I took one last sip of coffee, cool now, metallic. Then I stood, left a 20 on the table, and walked into the sunlight like nothing was ending, because for me, finally, something was beginning. The first real crack came at 11:13 a.m. Just under 2 hours after the ticker choked on Carterex's name and coughed blood into the open market. Theo Vale released a statement that read like it had been ghostwritten by a malfunctioning AI. It hit the wire via PR Newswire, then got copy-pasted into Slack by someone from marketing with a painfully cheerful sharing our leadership's thoughts during this time smiling face with smiling eyes. Carterex Systems is aware of the investigation announced this morning. We believe this stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of our internal accounting practices. We are cooperating fully with the Securities and Exchange Commission and expect to resolve the matter swiftly and responsibly. A misunderstanding. As if half the board hadn't signed off on imaginary clients with names like Strato's Agile North, which, fun fact, was a code name they made up during an off-site retreat after 3 margaritas and a bad trustful. I took a sip of my iced coffee and waited. And boy, did the rats start chewing each other's tails. Slack lit up like a slot machine hooked to a car battery. Hash finance ops, please direct all media inquiries to legal. Then 8 minutes later, wait, actually do not respond to media at all. Hash exec brief, Theo is handling press. Everyone else. Oh dark, then we may need to issue a clarification regarding Q3 contracts. Hash all hands, mandatory company-wide Zoom at 4 p.m. to align messaging. Cancelled 20 minutes later with zero explanation. They couldn't get their lies straight because they hadn't practiced this part. These were men who only rehearsed the victory speech, never the apology tour. And through it all, I watched from a rented co-working loft 6 blocks away. My little burner chirped with Slack leaks, email screenshots, panicked forwarded texts like it was live streaming a corporate bonfire. At 12:09 p.m., My old assistant, the only one who didn't try to micromanage me on Google Calendar invites, sent me this. Morgan Daniels, this place is on fire. Did you? I stared at the message for a full minute. The dots blinked like he was still typing. Then they vanished. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the file list on the burner drive. SEC packet final V3 inside. A neatly organized archive. Slash contracts slash forensic fake, Crester PDF slash Slack logs, slash Theo Q3 padding thread PNG slash Slack logs, slash Marcus fake, clients timestamp PNG slash board minutes, slash sanitized summary, missing revenue XLSX, that last one. Included a side thread where Debbie from Strategic Ops joked about pruning the numbers like we prune dead weight. Their Slack leaks weren't accidents. I'd given them to the SEC myself, right down to Theo's offhand. No one reads the fine print unless they're broke or mad. Guess what, Theo? I was both. The true beauty of it all, watching the culture rot from the inside. Watching people who once said Vivian overreacts now flail like inflatable car dealership dancers in a hurricane. HR tried to send a unifying message. Some were all in this together. Garbage with a gif of a kitten holding onto a rope. Half the company laughed. The other half updated their LinkedIn. Then legal sent out a message marked high priority, do not delete, asking everyone to preserve emails and avoid deleting chat logs until further notice. Someone immediately deleted the message. I almost choked on my straw. At 2:02 p.m., Theo went quiet, like blackout quiet. No new messages, no comments, no edits. Probably holed up with crisis comms and legal, wondering how many NDAs could be enforced in a federal probe. Answer, fewer than you think. I leaned back in the chair, the sun finally warming my shoulder through the dusty loft window. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I felt weightless, not happy, not vindicated. Just free of the sludge they'd been pouring on me since the moment I stopped smiling in meetings. Let them blame each other, let them sweat. Let them spend the afternoon deciding who'd get thrown under which bus and how fast. Meanwhile, the woman they thought was obsolete, she was already 3 moves ahead. The Twitter account showed up around 6:47 p.m., anonymous of course, using a profile picture of a goat in a business suit. The handle? At Audit This MF. Not exactly Pulitzer vibes, but effective. The first tweet was a redacted screen grab from Carterex's Q3 internal forecast, the one I'd labeled fictional clients masked before passing it to the SEC. Black bars covered names and invoice numbers, but not the $11.7 million in expected revenue from entities that, how shall I put it, did not exist outside of a Google Doc and Theo's ego. The post went viral in under 2 hours. Then came the second tweet. Multiple execs signed off on these clients. Did no one question why one had a Gmail address? I'd seen that one in the packet. Spindle Data Ventures was apparently operating out of Spindle Data Venture Epilot at gmail.com. They hadn't even bothered to register a domain. Theo called it pre-commercial stealth mode. I called it fraud. The tweets were surgical, drip-fed, timed like clockwork. Every hour a new breadcrumb. At 9:22 p.m., a screenshot of Slack messages hit the feed. My name was blacked out, but anyone with half a neuron could guess the speaker. You can't book future value off clients who haven't even signed a service agreement. Response from Theo, Vivian, stop being the ethics police. Just make it fit. That's when the headlines really turned. TechCrunch, Carterex implodes. Whistleblower's evidence paints picture of systemic deception. Forbes. From unicorn to under investigation, inside Carterex's collapse NYT deal book. The $2B acquisition that died in a tweet storm because yes, by Friday morning the acquisition was dead. Publicly and spectacularly. The potential buyer, Sargenix Group, issued their own press release. We have terminated exploratory talks with Carterex Systems following revelations made public by regulatory agencies and independent sources. We prioritize integrity. Translation: we saw the dumpster fire and decided not to toast marshmallows over it. I sat at my kitchen island, barefoot, watching it unfold with the TV muted again. Just headlines, just chaos, just the rich finally getting a taste of their own rot. Then came the open letter. It wasn't from press or regulators. It was from a group of minority investors, mostly women, mostly early-stage backers who'd been iced out of board decisions for years. They published it in full-page format on Medium. Title: Return the Woman Who Told the Truth. The letter tore through the company like a flashbang. It recounted my tenure, cited my clean audit record, and blessed them. Even quoted a comment I made during a 2015 compliance seminar. The truth doesn't require consensus. The last paragraph: we are not interested in optics. We are interested in accountability. Vivian Holt understood that. Perhaps Carterex should too. For a moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, seen, but it came with a dull ache. Why did it take collapse for people to care? Why does a woman have to set herself on fire before anyone asks why the room smells like smoke? I was still reading the last sentence when the Theo bomb dropped. He went live on a late-night investor webcast. His tie gone, sleeves rolled, that faked just one of the guys' look he puts on when he's circling the drain. Midway through a softball Q&A, a reporter from the Journal asked, "Any comment on who filed the complaint?" Theo didn't flinch. Been rehearsing this line. We believe the situation was instigated by a disgruntled former employee, and were deeply disappointed in her choice to bypass internal resolution. Her, not the whistleblower, not the source, just her. He wanted it out there. He wanted me blamed, painted as bitter, petty, weak. It was a mistake. At 10:07 p.m., my lawyer issued a one-line statement to every major outlet. Miss Holt has nothing further to say. For now, was the legal version of flipping the safety off a loaded weapon. CNBC ran that quote on a loop. Twitter added it to their bios. By sunrise, Cartwreck's stock had dropped another 11%. The board canceled their town hall. PR shut off comments on all official channels. The CEO of Sargenix deleted every tweet he'd ever made about disruptive partnerships. And me? I sat in silence with my tea, no longer bitter, just heavy. Not triumphant, not broken. Just aware that they thought I'd beg. And instead, I let them burn. The first reach out came through Morgan, not legal, not PR, not even some crisis handling consultant in a Patagonia vest. Just Morgan Daniels, junior analyst turned reluctant intermediary, emailing me from his personal Gmail with the subject line, "They want to talk." The body was short, clearly not his words. Board believes a conversation would be mutually beneficial. They're considering a public reframe of the situation, and your inclusion would send a powerful message. Translation: help us mop up the mess we made of your name. I closed the email and let it sit there like a puddle of lukewarm soup. Didn't respond for a day, maybe two. Serenity is a slow dance, and I'd earned every second of mine. Then came a phone call from a burner number not even in my contact list. Voicemail only, a woman's voice. Polished, careful. "Miss Holt, we'd be honored to explore a new leadership initiative with you, specifically around ethics and compliance culture. The board is eager to move forward with transparency, and you would be integral to that vision." Ethics and compliance culture. As if they hadn't spent the last 5 years treating compliance like a dirty word, whispered in dimly lit hallways after earnings calls. They wanted to Trojan horse me into the spotlight. Not as a threat anymore, but as a redemption arc. A comeback story. Look how evolved we are. We brought back the woman we buried. I stared out my apartment window, watching the skyline breathe in the summer haze, and felt it clearly. They still didn't get it. They thought I'd missed the power. The paycheck, the prestige, but what I missed, what I wanted, was peace. Silence, autonomy, so I didn't take their seat. I didn't negotiate. I went to my hall closet, pulled out the old lanyard with my laminated Carterex ID, photo from 2014 when I still believed the mission, and I snapped it in half. Right through the plastic, right through the barcode. I mailed it back in a padded envelope, no return address. Just a sticky note inside: integrity isn't retroactive. 3 hours later, Morgan texted me. "Morgan Daniels, you sent the badge, they're panicking. They said they thought you'd want to help fix it." I finally responded. "Vivian Holt, I did fix it. You're welcome." Then I logged into LinkedIn for the first time in months, changed my status to independent ethics consultant, updated my location, changed my photo to one where I wasn't in a blazer and didn't look like someone's pre-funeral portrait. And I wrote a post. What happens when women don't stay quiet? I spent 16 years being the voice of caution in rooms full of accelerators. I warned softly. I reported quietly. I did everything the right way. They called it loyalty until I stopped protecting them. Then they called it betrayal. But let me be clear, silence isn't loyalty. It's complicity. So no, I won't come back to help you polish the wreckage. I'm not your redemption arc. I'm the reason the curtain came down. I closed the laptop. Within 24 hours, the post had over 70,000 likes. Comments from ex-CEOs, compliance officers, college students, women in oil and gas, men in pharma, quiet people finally tired of being quiet. It trended under # she didn't stay quiet, and I made another cup of tea, not chamomile this time. Earl Grey, strong, black. The kind you drink when you're finally wide awake. The conference room at the hotel was quiet. Sterile, all beige walls and free mints. The kind of place where affairs and bad business deals happen behind closed doors. But I wasn't here for either. I was here to sign the contract sitting on the desk in front of me. 6 figures. Clean slate. No board drama, no internal gaslighting disguised as alignment. Just a new role at a startup run by people who'd read my LinkedIn post and emailed 2 hours later with a subject line that read simply, "We believe you." I didn't sign it right away. I was waiting on something else. On the hotel TV, the Carterex live earnings call had just begun. They delayed it twice already, blamed scheduling conflicts while the C-suite scrambled like roaches under a floodlight. Now they were live, voices echoing across a Zoom grid from boardrooms, panic rooms, whatever bunker they'd chosen to broadcast from. Theo was there, looking worse for wear. Gone was the perfect part in his hair. The collar was limp, his voice, like gravel soaked in regret. "We want to begin by acknowledging the seriousness of the situation," he said, eyes darting left to read a script he probably wrote with a lawyer breathing down his neck. A journalist cut in mid-statement, aggressive, sharp. "Can you confirm who filed the whistleblower complaint?" Silence. Theo looked to someone off-screen, maybe legal, maybe HR, maybe just a mirror he hoped would blink back a better answer. He cleared his throat, said nothing. Then the feed froze. I didn't need the answer from his lips, because 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed on the table next to the untouched pen. Twitter. At Financial First confirmed, Vivian Holt was the whistleblower behind the SEC investigation into Carterex systems. Sources indicate her documentation was comprehensive and irrefutable. No blue check, didn't need it, the replies came fast. Damn, she brought receipts. She's my new religion. How do we get her a Netflix deal? The Carterex stock graph updated at 11:08 a.m. Down 17%. Not a dip, a dive. Like the market had finally stopped pretending. I didn't cheer, didn't cry, just stared at the screen while the chaos unfolded in real time. There was no applause, no fanfare, just the quiet weight lifting off my spine like bricks rolling off one by one. I picked up the pen and signed the new contract. No hesitation, no ceremony, just a name scrawled on fresh paper in a room where no one lied to me. An hour later, I slipped on a black blazer, minimalist and sharp. My badge from the startup accelerator waited at the front desk. They'd booked me as the keynote speaker for their leadership track. Funny how fast the world turns once it remembers your name for the right reasons. The walk across the lobby felt different, not like power, not like vengeance, like peace. And then, right as I reached for the door to the auditorium, my phone buzzed again. One last push notification. Carterex trading suspended pending ongoing SEC and DOJ investigation. I stared at it, thumb hovering. Then I smiled, just once. Calm, cold, full, took them long enough. You're the real MVPs of the office jungle. Thanks for watching. Smash that subscribe button, or the coffee pot might just forget your next brew.